Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe it. We got 14 people already here. I am doing a breaking news special because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Microsoft has beaten the FTC in this long, drawn out case of the Activision Blizzard King deal that cost Microsoft over $70 billion. I want to welcome in the whole 14 people that are here. So let me just see if there's anybody in the chat so we can reach out to somebody and say hello. Um, obviously, primetime gaming at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will, of course, be happening. I'm going to be, of course, I'm going to have Hargeet Chani as well as Kay Asante with me. Hey, Scott Woodford. Hello, kind sir. And Alan Johnson. Hello. Welcome to the program. Adidas 20, my brother. How you feeling? We have CJ My 1024 here. Appreciate you gentlemen showing up. Again, folks, this isn't going to be a long show, probably around 30 minutes or so. But this is something that we have been asking and waiting for as fans of gaming, because obviously one of the big things with Microsoft is that they intend to potentially add additional studios and publishers to Xbox games studios to continue to feed the monster known as Xbox Game Pass. And well, here's the thing, folks. That has finally that thorn in Microsoft's side of the FTC holding up the only entity in the entire planet that said that this deal was illegal or it wasn't good finally loses. And now Microsoft can, of course, start to get back onto the hunt of who are they going to add next. Because ultimately, look, if you just read the playing field, folks, and I'm not going to get political because you know how I feel about that. Politics has no place here at Double Barrel Gaming. But, with the world being the way it is, and the world having to react to some of the decisions from people that are in power, tariffs have, of course, played a huge part in raising prices for consumers. And even though I'm not going to talk about eggs or cream cheese or the supermarkets, we're going to keep this on gaming. And well, for gamers like us, and there's already, my God, 150 people here on an impromptu. Wow, thank you guys and gals so much for that. I super appreciate that. But keeping it pointed, with Nintendo coming out and having their console be 449 or 500 for with the game or without, kind of set the table for what hardware is going to be moving forward. They're not going to take any losses like you've seen PlayStation and Xbox do for decades, right? They take a loss on the console and they sell you the game or the service and or both, and everyone's happy, right? The cog just keeps turning and turning and turning. Well, things have changed and things are going to continue to change, ladies and gentlemen. And how that is happening, well, it's really has happened in front of us. Nintendo comes out 3 weeks ago and announces $80 games, shocking the world. And again, for me personally, in one of the biggest shocking moves that Xbox has ever done is raise the prices of everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything broad stroke except for Xbox Game Pass. And one of the things that Xbox has done quietly and continues to do is release first party bangers, and they use third party developers and publishers to add additional incentives for us to say, to stay subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, right? That's how the cog works. And even though, we know that they have 30 plus studios and they have more than enough talent to continue to fill Xbox Game Pass on a monthly basis, as they've been doing all of this year, it's just been one banger month after another. Well, ultimately, this thorn in their side that has been removed today, and we're going to get into the article that I pulled, really does open the floodgates for what Microsoft as a corporation could potentially do with another publisher. Now, who is that publisher? Well, I'm not going to so much get into that here because I do want a panel of people to kind of round off my personal opinions, thoughts, and theories. And that's going to happen later this evening. But I do want to pull the article and read from it verbatim. Now, this is from, I'm sure everyone's reporting on it. I saw Hazardor Gaming. I saw Tom Henderson's, Tom Warren put it out there. Everyone is going to be talking about this. This is going to be what we open up the show with tonight because it is a really big piece of news. But for today, for right now, I pulled the article from yahoofinance.com, and it was written by Mark Scarlasella. And Mike goes on to say, I said Mark, Mike Scarlasella. And he goes on to say this. This comes the way of Reuters. A federal appeals court on Wednesday rejected a legal challenge by the Federal Trade Commission to Microsoft's $69 billion purchase of Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard. The San Francisco-based Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a lower judge's order that said that the FTC was not entitled to a preliminary injunction blocking the deal when it closed in 2023. That's how long this thing has been going on. We're now going on 2 years. Well, it says this, folks. A 3-judge panel unanimously ruled that the lower judge, which of course is Judge Corley, if you remember, had applied the correct legal standards and said that the FTC had not shown it was likely to succeed on its claims that the merger could restrict competition. A spokesperson for the FTC declined comment out of embarrassment. I added that. Microsoft did not immediately respond to a request or comment. I would imagine that the alarm bells have gone off at Microsoft and you're going to hear something I think from all of the bigs. I would not be surprised if Satya Nadella has a statement by the time we go live at 7 p.m. I would imagine that you could hear something from Amy Hood, who's the CFO. And I would also imagine, and I don't think this is too much of a stretch, that, well, Phil Spencer, of course, is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. I would imagine we're going to get a quote or comment from him. But just going on and reading the article verbatim, it says the FTC, which enforces antitrust laws, separately challenged the merger in an internal administrative action. That proceeding was placed on hold in 2023 during President Joe Biden's administration, pending the Ninth Circuit's decision, which, of course, was, I just read verbatim, in favor of Microsoft. The article goes on to say, ladies and gentlemen, the Activision Blizzard transaction marked the largest ever acquisition in video game market history. The deal closed in late 2023 after the competition authorities in the UK approved it. The purchase also faced regulatory scrutiny in other international markets. Now, it says that the FTC's lawsuit sought an order freezing the Activision transaction while the agency pursued it in an administrative challenge. The agency claimed that Microsoft's Activision tie-up would allow the merged companies to fend off competitors to the Xbox console and to its subscription service and cloud-based gaming business. Now, here, just to get some information from what happened when this was approved, U.S. District Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley had refused to block the acquisition back in July of 2023, finding that the FTC had not shown Microsoft's ownership of Activision would substantially, and I quote, lessen competition in the video game library subscription and or cloud gaming markets. The FTC argued in its appeal with the court applied an overly stringent standard in weighing whether a grant of preliminary injunction could be issued. Obviously, that did not happen. So, folks, that is the article. Check out the Indiana Jones footage that I have for you. What a great game if you haven't played it. And, of course, if you are on PlayStation, it is available for you to play. And that's the other thing, folks. Look, Shout out to King Webb, my brother from another. He is consistently DMing me with amazing pieces of information. I want to thank him for always doing that. We also have, I mean, there's been so many people that have been going back and forth. Sith Law is another gentleman. Brett Bingham has been on top of things. Let's see, who else has been a big fan, a big help to the channel? Aces 352, again, phenomenal stuff as always. But this is a big deal, folks. This is a monster size deal, and it really does open the door for Microsoft to make a big play. And that big play, well, again, folks, I have no idea who they're going to go for in regards to its, potential publisher. But there is something to be said about developers kind of hanging in the wings waiting. Now, one of the things that was prominent last year and continues to be a big problem this year is studio closures, layoffs. And obviously, when Microsoft undertook Activision Blizzard King, it was 10,000 people, folks. That's a lot of humans. And obviously, there were some layoffs, which you never want to see. That was overlapping positions from one publisher to another. And I mean, I do not cap for the $3.5 trillion company. You never want to see anyone lose their job. But when you hear about this finally getting out of the FTC's hands and seeing how the way that Microsoft, or more specifically Xbox, has gone third party, right? Like, look, guys, gals, I want this to be clear. I know that there have been so many people in the community, prominent members too. And we don't do the names here, so everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to fight with them. But there's been a lot of people that have been super, I mean, like super stung over Gears of War going to PlayStation, right? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. 24 months ago, I might have been throwing my hands up in the air, but I've come to the realization that this is the way the world turns. And gaming is such an expensive hobby and it's such an expensive business that a third place publisher like Microsoft, who can't sell their own consoles. We know that's the truth, folks, because the numbers don't lie. They've been on a decline for the last 4, 5, 6 quarters, maybe. And why is that? Not because the console isn't good. The Series X is amazing, and the Series S is a phenomenal console. It's just that right now, the PlayStation is a cheaper way to get into gaming. It is the most popular brand, and the Switch is always going to be the Switch, right? Like the Switch 1, there's a reason why they finally beat PlayStation 2 numbers, because they're an affordable console and people want to play there. Now, what does that mean for Xbox and their next console? That's a horse of another color and a conversation for another time. There is hardware coming. We already know that. And as a matter of fact, tonight's lead story is the leak from the ROG Ally Xbox team up that has finally got out there. So we should be hearing something soon, and we are going to talk about that tonight. But of course, opening salvo is going to be the FTC losing. And look, I got to be honest with you. My heart pumps piss for the FTC, because we know that this whole thing was BS from the beginning, and ultimately this was a scorned leader in Lena Khan, who did not like the idea that she lost, and the millions of dollars that went into this, when everyone else in the world was like, "Yep, they're gonna, we have rules in place. We're not worried about Microsoft." And did they stay to their word? Yes. Are they the biggest third-party publisher in gaming? Yes, they are. Are games from Xbox on PlayStation? Yes, there are. So you know what this ultimately does? And folks, look, I get it. Like, there's going to be somebody in the chat or somebody that's going to message me on YouTube and be like, "Yeah, look at you, you corporate slave." Listen, folks, I'm not a corporate slave. I don't get anything for this, but I am a consumer. And right now, the best deal in business is with Microsoft and Xbox. And you can't say otherwise. Like I said, if your preferred platform is not Xbox, I'm not going to fight you on it, folks. That is okay. Like what you like, love who you love. It doesn't matter. But the bottom line is that if you are a PlayStation gamer, you paid 76.43 for the regular edition of this game on your screen. That's what you did. I simply had to buy the upgrade for $30 and I got the $100 edition. And it's going to be an Xbox Game Pass forever. So who's really winning here? I would say it's the Xbox player. Now, again, your arguments, and there's going to be some in here. The argument of is the PS5 Pro actually better than the Xbox Series X? Well, I would imagine that it does beat it in certain things, but it's certainly not the behemoth that it was sold to its fans, right? So I'll play Indiana Jones or the next Indiana Jones or Gears of War Reloaded or Halo Combat Evolved Remade or whatever you want to call it and have just a great time on an Xbox. I'm not worried. I'm not missing a blade of grass because that's ultimately what it comes down to, and it's fine. But shout out to King Webb who yells. He wasn't actually the only one. Coach Canuck also said it one more time. Con! I wish I had that. I wish I would have had it. Webb David, who's in the chat, was here. He would have been able to do it because I have the Steam Deck, Stream Deck, I should say. I don't even use it. It's terrible. But let's see. Chief Nagel 8 says, if it takes Xbox out of hardware, I don't think they'll mind. But see, that's the thing, Chief. Look, ever since the Gears of War announcement, all I have seen is, and again, folks, I don't do the names thing here because I'm not about that smoke. Plus, I am not about embarrassing people for an opinion. If your opinion is different than mine, have at it. But I am not going to agree with you. And I keep hearing the same rhetoric from the same people about hardware. Hardware for Xbox isn't going anywhere. And okay, so can I say that for 25 years from now? If I knew that, I'd pick the lottery. Well, I don't know what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years. What I can tell you is going to happen is whether it be 26, and I'm sure now with the tariffs it's 27, you're getting new hardware. You're going to get a new box underneath your TV that's going to be something that gamers, console gamers, have never had before, and you're getting a handheld. Like, what more do people need? But you know what it comes down to? It comes down, ladies and gentlemen, to narrative. There are people in this community, in this chat, that consistently come to hang out and watch the shows, and I appreciate it, that interact with me, when I don't mute them or block them because they're just being stupid. And the truth of the matter is that when the narrative needs to be changed, we see these big hulking men moving goalposts. It's first it was Xbox has no games, and then it was Xbox Game Pass, no value because it's fodder. Xbox Series S is holding up the entire industry, but yet Switch 2, much less powerful, is somehow going to be veered as a savior for gaming. It's crazy how the narrative changes, and in the last couple of days, everyone that is you know who they are, have been saying that, oh, Xbox isn't making hardware, they're full third party, wait till Halo comes. Yeah, you know what? When Halo goes to PlayStation, I am going to be incredibly baffled and perplexed, right? Like, I still don't understand why they need to do it in regards to, do they have the need versus the want? It's still very, like, crazy to me. And because I'm an old school cat, I find it to be odd. I honestly find it to be odd. But am I going to give up Xbox Game Pass? And this is where it gets kind of crazy, folks. I know that you're here for me to talk about the FTC, but we're here, so we're going to go for it. Again, this is one of those open-ended conversations, so get ready. I have seen people literally send me pictures, and it's probably nonsense. I don't believe anyone's actually doing this because you got to be a real knucklehead if you do it, but fine if you do. Where they've canceled their Game Pass subscription, bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, and are now buying games for PlayStation 5 Pro. Like, look, folks, I'm here to tell you the Pro is probably a really fine device, and I'm sure that it does a few things better than the Xbox. But the Xbox Series X is a 5-year-old piece of hardware. If the Pro isn't lapping it, is that a problem? It should be if you're buying that for $700. So don't at me where because these games are going over that now Xbox is getting out of the hardware business. Folks, look, let me just tell you something right now. I said this yesterday, and I want to reiterate it again before we get back to what I think is going to happen now with the shackles taken off of Microsoft and their spending, because they're going big. And my heart of hearts, folks, I'll say it again tonight. I could you imagine, folks? You know what? Let me hold that point because I'm going all over the place. But the thing is this: Xbox is not going anywhere because there are 40 million subscribers to Xbox Game Pass. And I said, I'll break down the numbers for you. Let's just say, for some shits and giggles, that 10 million of those 40 are on PC. Well, we know that PC is consistently growing. The new number said it was up 45% year over year for PC Game Pass. That's a really big deal. That's more than half. That's a big deal. So there are 30 million subscribers left on console. Now, where the rubber hits the road with here, and this just completely just destroys anyone's thoughts and theories with no hardware for next generation, is you're going to get some of those people to stay on current gen, right? Now, that current gen for them might be Xbox One X, One S, might be Xbox Series S and X. And there's going to be a large portion of the Xbox community, and I'm one of them, that's going to buy the box and the freaking handheld. These are customers. That is hardware. That's 3 generations of hardware that are going to continue to pay for the service. And as all of these companies get into selling you or trying to sell you $80 games, the best place to play is going to be on Xbox because it's going to be the most affordable. And that is where we segue back into the FTC lane, because Web Dave and I have been on the same page with this thing since inception, and we really thought that this was just such a waste of millions and millions of taxpayer dollars, and ultimately it was, right? But where Xbox, or more specifically Microsoft, goes next is going to be the fun time to have conversations, because again, folks, they're not filling my coffers. I have stock. It's sitting right here. I'm not going to show you what it looks like because it has my numbers on there, but I own stock in Microsoft. Is it substantial? It's not. It really isn't. But the truth of the matter is that they're not filling my coffers. They're not going to put the money down on our first home. But as a consumer and an Xbox fan, how could you not get excited on where they're going to go next? Because like I said, the publisher angle, I think, is happening. I don't know if that happens this year. What I can see happening, though, are the Crystal Dynamics, the IO Interactives, right? These are lots of studios that they are currently working with that are working on major first-party games, right? We know Crystal Dynamics is finishing up Perfect Dark, right? We know that Eidos Montreal is helping with Fable. Now, these are talented studios that got cut off and sold to Embracer Group, who Embracer Group let a lot of people go. So if you have these studios that are working hands-on and on your first party, these games are ultimately going to get a sequel. You got to pick up these developers. You know them. You're working with them now. But it's not even just them. I could probably run off 6 or 7 other studios that Microsoft is working with right now that would be incredible additions to Xbox Game Studios. And the more developers they get, folks, the more AAA bangers we are going to get in what? Xbox Game Pass. Now, does it and should it matter to you if they're putting their games on PlayStation? I mean, listen, if you're an Xbox purist, you're gonna feel super weird about this. You're like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Like I said, how many times did you guys and gals hear me talk about the Trinity being on PlayStation? I can't see it happening. Well, they got 2 of the 3 already, right? Gears is happening in August. Forza Horizon 5 is destroying the charts on PlayStation. Does that mean that they get Halo? I mean, you would assume that's going to happen, but has that happened now? No. Has Avowed been put on there? No. Is South of Midnight on there? No. I mean, there are current exclusives, but like I said, as an Xbox fan, and if you're a purist, folks, I hear you. I understand why you're upset, but I just understand that I have moved on from actually giving a shit because you shouldn't either. You should not get yourself all twisted as to what the $3.5 trillion company is trying to do to become the $4 trillion company. Just play your games and enjoy your games. And let's see, we got to have here. Let's see. So HVDIV or 4. Welcome to the. I've never seen the name before, so welcome. It's great to see you here, brother. He says PlayStation has to pay full price for Xbox games while we pay $20 on Game Pass, and ultimately that's really what it comes down to. Now, granted, you've heard me say this before. Go to Aniba, go to cdkeys.com, and try and get. They have them, but they don't have as many of them. And they also it's starting to shrink a little bit. Like for instance, I'm paid up until April 6th of 2028, and every time I get a 3-month block that falls off, I re-up, right? Like I buy a 3-month card. I used to be able to pick up that card for like $23, and I'm like, okay, that's a great deal because that's a third, right? But that's not the case anymore. Like I've gotten as low as 23. I've paid as much as like 34. Well, just recently, I wound up paying at Aniba. I think it was 48.99, which isn't great. It's like a $12 savings. Whoop de doo. But if you're buying a year's worth, that becomes $48 worth of savings. So you could still get a deal. It's just not as good as it used to be. Why? Because Microsoft, they're a corporation, folks. They understand what they're doing. But look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you look at what has released this year alone, the $20 a month is well worth it. And what this loss for the FTC does is, and again, this is a dual conversation that we're gonna revisit tonight because I want to hear what Hargeet. I know Hargeet's probably tickled pink that this is happening. He's probably in the chat right now. I know that Keasante is going to have a lot to say. Hey, we may even get a visit from Mr. Everborn Saga, Mr. President. He may even stop by because he's going to have a lot to say. But this is a dual conversation, like walking down side by side, because the FTC losing, and the current administration opens the door for Microsoft to go get another publisher. Who's that? Who is that publisher? Who am I talking about? Is it EA? I don't think it's EA. But in my heart, man, could you imagine if they pick up 2K, like they went out and bought 2K? They could easily buy 2K. But I mean, is that going to happen? Who knows? But look, with that said, and going third party, ladies and gentlemen, and they're putting their biggest IP everywhere. That opens the door for literally no friction whatsoever when they go to pick up a potential like a 2K. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I keep saying 2K. Is that going to happen? The chances are incredibly unlikely. But hear me out, folks. Walk with me on this one. Call of Duty, we just learned today, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is the most fiscal, successful Call of Duty of all time. Of all time. How long has Call of Duty been around? So, with that said, that game's everywhere. I mean, for crying out loud, Gears of War is going to PlayStation. So nothing's off the table, right? Nothing is off the table. So if they go to pick up, let's say, a 2K, and they add Grand Theft Auto to an IP that they own, it's Jover, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. They're already the biggest publisher in the world. Could you imagine owning all of what they already own, like all the Bethesda titles, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft. They have King with all of their mobile stuff. Call of Duty. I had to say it again, folks. And you add Grand Theft Auto. That's why I think that's what you go for. You make such a splash that, and everything's in Game Pass. That's it, folks. That we win. Right, Xbox players, we start running around your living room with your W flag. You won. But let's see. And so Malcolm XLA says Rockstar could finally have funding for Bully 2 and consistent content for Red Dead. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption. We're probably going to get when I'm like 70. I could be the starring character. Who the heck knows? Let's see. What we got over here for the chat? You know what? Let me just catch up on the super chats. We got a couple of member chats here, and we'll try and answer them. James Thomas, who's been a channel member for 3 months. So James, thank you so much for the support, brother. He says the Xbox handheld has leaked. Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you go to the YouTube channel, you're going to see that it's got Phil Spencer holding a handheld. We're going to be talking about that as well. Web Dave, I was just talking about you, brother. Nice to see you here as always. He's been a channel member for a whopping 33 months. Dave, thank you so much for that, brother. He says, remember, Boom, Microsoft still has over $90 billion in cash on hand for more acquisitions. Hit the like button so you will always get the breaking news at TTS. Thank you so much for that, brother. And yes, that's right. They do have $90 billion in cash. That's insane. We have Ultron Quake, who's been a channel member for 20 months. Ultron, thank you so much for supporting the channel, brother, and always being here. He says, I hope this clears the way for Sega or Square Enix deal. I mean, that's also, I didn't even, we've talked about it before. I didn't even think about it right now, but yeah, that could be something that they look into. Sega, I don't know. Sega's doing so well for themselves. I don't know if they'd want to be acquired. Same thing with Capcom. Like everyone keeps saying, oh, Capcom. I mean, as a Capcom purist, diehard fan, yes, please, but they're doing too well on their own. Square Enix, not so much, man. Square Enix is having a go at it, if you will. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go moving forward. But again, folks, listen again, this was only meant to go about 35, 40 minutes, which we're at right now. If anyone that's just tuning in, big breaking news: Microsoft wins appeal in FTC challenge to their $69 billion Activision Blizzard King deal, and the courts have ruled in Microsoft's favor, as they should have, right? Like that's not a surprise. This was the only entity, the legal entity in the entire planet that said this was a bad deal. You kind of knew that they were going to lose. And they lost. And of course, I don't think they're going to get any conversation from Lena Khan because she's no longer in the position. But at the end of the day, this does open the door for Xbox and to add additional studios as well as potentially another publisher to their already stacked deck. But look, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. We have 553 people here. Look, before we get out of here, and I do want to go to my YouTube channel and just drop the link in here. I've said this before. Mrs. Boom and I, we never ask for anything. We really don't like asking. We prefer giving. But we're in a bit of a conundrum here because we are 91 subscribers away from hitting 16,000, and I would really, really like to get there. And you guys and gals, there's a lot of names here that could help us get here. We don't charge you we don't charge you to subscribe, and you don't even have to hit the like button, though we'd prefer if you did. Again, 91 people we need. Are we going to do this live on the air? Probably not, but it would be great. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat and ask that you guys and gals who are not subscribed, help us out over here. Like we do this 5 days a week, and every time there's breaking news, I'm one of the first content creators to jump on. Now, why I can do that is because I'm retired, but I still could just be playing, well, Doom, for instance, which I'm reviewing. And I'm here with you guys and gals going over this breaking news because I love the industry and I really like hanging out with this community. So if you enjoy the breaking news segments, if you enjoy the 5 day a week coverage on everything gaming, please throw me a sub. I would greatly appreciate it. And look, again, thank you to all of the channel member chats, because those are channel memberships that help the channel behind the scenes financially monthly. And we really appreciate that. And of course, we get on a regular basis the generosity from the super chats. Of course, me and Mrs. Boom are incredibly grateful for that, because we are able to do lots of things for the community in regards to giveaways, but we're also doing a lot of things with the channel behind the scenes. And whenever we need equipment, sometimes the equipment goes. We need a new camera, we need a new mic, we need a new headset. But all of the programs that keep the channel going, that allow me to do the videos, that allow me to do the thumbnails and all the artwork, those programs cost a lot of money, and there's no buy one and it's forever. You got to pay for these things yearly, and that's what we use a lot of the super chats for. So thank you so much for that. But ladies and gentlemen, breaking news: the FTC loses again. I think it's like the third or fourth time, but congratulations to Microsoft for winning, because that's going to open the door for us as consumers. We're going to win on the back end of this, because the more studios and publishers they acquire, the more you get day-and-date games in your service. And that's how we win financially. But look, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. 37 minutes. We appreciate this impromptu podcast. Again, having almost 550 people here is phenomenal. Do not forget, we are doing primetime gaming, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where the two topics are going to be the FTC, and of course, I'm not going to reiterate anything I said. We're going to talk with Hargi Chani and Kay Asante, and we may even get a few other guests to kind of talk about it. But we're also going to get into the leaked handheld, and that is a really big deal, because again, tariffs kind of makes me think that this is gonna, the Xbox one is going to happen sometime in 2027, but this ROG Ally one is a great start, and I'm buying it day one. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. Appreciate everyone taking the time to hang out with with myself, and the chat has been lively. Apologies, I could not welcome in everybody as I normally do, because I'm solo. But I am going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you, and that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you tonight on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.